How many royals can I find out on the city's streets in just one day? What was the home of choice for the world's greatest superhero? Find out now in this episode of Astonishing Glasgow. It's a special episode this time. I have just left Royal Mail after 29 years as a postman, and I thought I'd mark the occasion with a postal themed challenge. I'm going to try and find a post box for every monarch on my bike and in one day. The first post box I've come across is just around the corner from my house. And what do I mean by finding monarchs? On the front of each post box is a cipher, the official mark of whatever king or queen was on the throne at the time the post box was installed. This first box has the cipher of Edward VII. An intertwined E for Edward and R for Rex, Rex being king in Latin. That means that this box has been here for over 100 years, as Edward VII was on the throne between 1901 and 1910. 1 down, 6 to go. I'll check each box as I pass and try and collect them all. The next box is on Langside Drive, but it's another Edward VII. In Newlands Road, a strange one, as there's no cipher whatsoever. So I've christened this one the Astonishing Glasgow postbox. Don't worry, it's just water, I'm not actually damaging it. Yet another Edward VII box on Tantallon Road. I think I need to head to another area to get away from Edward VII. And the next stop is something very rare. I'm in Strathbungo, and this box is on Nitsdale Drive. This is a listed building to protect it for historical importance, as the cipher is that of Edward VIII. Edward VIII was only on the throne for 326 days in 1936. He left the royal family and fell in love with a famous American woman. I can't imagine that happening these days. Anyway, less than 200 of the Edward VIII post boxes were made, which makes this cipher very rare, apparently. Even though I now know of another 2 in the G44 postcode area alone that I worked in. Maybe they were really rare outside of Glasgow. The next box to visit is fittingly on Victoria Road. The custom of a royal cipher on the front of post boxes all started with Queen Victoria in 1837. This Queen Victoria box won't be as old as that, as the first boxes were hexagonal in shape, but think about how long this box has been quietly standing on this street corner doing its job. It's the very same post box that can be seen in this old black and white postcard. And going by the guy with the top hat walking down the street, this postcard is probably from about 1900s, so the postbox would have been about 50 years old at this point. I have a slightly longer cycle to get to the next box, so while I get there, please remember to hit that like and subscribe button, it really helps my channel. The next location is in the shadow of the Tennant's Brewery on Duke Street, and the next box is surprisingly rare. George VI was on the throne for 16 years, from 1936 to 1952, and because of a certain Mr. Hitler, the production of post boxes was not a priority during his reign, and the metal was needed elsewhere, so there were a lot fewer of these boxes produced. I could only find this one on Duke Street, but do you know of any others? Let me know in the comments. Now, it was a different story for George VI's dad, George V. On the throne from 1910 till 1936, his post boxes are all over the place. No Roman numerals were included to show him being the 5th George, because he was the first King George to have a pillar box with his cipher on it, so there didn't seem to be any need to specify him as George V. So we've so far ticked off 5 kings and 1 queen, but we haven't yet found a postbox of Queen Elizabeth II. The longest reigning monarch, being on the throne from 1952 to 2022, you'd expect there to be Elizabeth ciphers everywhere, but not in Glasgow. When the Queen unexpectedly took the throne in 1952, after the death of her father, George VI, her cipher was a bold design, similar to the George V cipher, but with the inclusion of Roman numerals. This is where the problems started, as that didn't go down well with some people in Scotland. The Tudor Queen Elizabeth I was only the Queen of England and Wales, so Elizabeth wasn't the second Queen Elizabeth of Scotland, she was the first. Never has a number 2 been so controversial, as this led to the boxes being vandalised, strongly worded letters being sent to the Postmaster General, and then, believe it or not, explosive devices were being found inside Elizabeth II postboxes. It was agreed by the government of the time, led by Winston Churchill, that Scotland would get its very own postbox design. So instead of Elizabeth II, we got this, the image of St Andrew's crown, which is part of the Scottish crown jewels. You may have seen that crown recently at the funeral of Elizabeth II, as that was rested on the top of her coffin. So this is now the logo of Royal Mail in Scotland, and used on postboxes, postal vans and postman uniforms, and it's why I couldn't get an Elizabeth II postbox to complete my challenge. Do you have an Elizabeth II postbox near you? Let me know in the comments below, or get in touch through the social media pages, all the links are below. So that was the challenge, failed. Almost completed, but failed. So while I go and try and get used to being jobless for the first time since I was 11 years old, please hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy my content. Hit that super thanks button if you want to make a donation to help me make more episodes of Astonishing Glasgow. And these are the people who made a donation since the last episode. Thank you all for watching this special episode, and I will see you next time in Astonishing Glasgow. Right, I'm away to have a whole King Victoria sponge. See you later.